marketplace was alive with sound and color. Strange towers made of crystal reached into the sky, glowing faintly as if they drank light from the twin suns above. Airships floated in silence overhead, their hulls shining with unknown metals. The crowd moved like a living river, made up of creatures from many worlds. Some had silver scales, some had fur like living fire, and some spoke in clicks and echoes that bounced through the air. No one expected to see a human there. At first, the crowd did not notice him. The man walked slowly through the stalls, his steps quiet, his eyes sharp and calm. He wore a dark cloak that hid most of his body, but his face was uncovered. The skin of a human was rare in this corner of the galaxy, and soon the whispers began. Heads turned, eyes followed, voices carried. A human? Here? One alien hissed, its mouth full of thin, shining teeth. He should not be alive, muttered another, her long antennae curling in fear. The human ignored them. He stopped at a stall where glowing fruit floated in glass jars, studied them for a moment, then walked on without a word. His silence only made him seem more dangerous. The market, once loud, began to quiet as he passed. Then someone noticed the ring. It rested on his right hand, plain at first glance, just a circle of silver metal. But it caught the light in a strange way, bending it, twisting it, making it shimmer like water. To the crowd, it was not just a ring. It was a memory. The whispers grew sharper. That ring. No, it cannot be. He carries the mark. Near. The center of the marketplace, an old alien woman sat on a low stone bench. Her skin was pale blue, stretched thin across her bones, and her eyes glowed like fading stars. She was older than most could guess, older than even she'd like to admit. She had seen wars, empires rise and fall, and ships burn in the cold of space. She had lived long enough to know symbols, and that ring was not just a piece of metal. She stood with effort, leaning on her staff, her hands trembling. The crowd parted for her without a word. Everyone knew her. Some feared her. Some respected her. All listened when she spoke. The human did not look at her at first. He kept walking, steady and calm, his cloak brushing the ground. But when she stepped into his path, he stopped. Her voice was soft, but it carried through the silence. Where did you get that ring, human? The question hung in the air like a blade. The crowd leaned closer, but no one dared to speak. Even the airships above seemed to pause, their engines humming more softly. The human lifted his hand slightly as if showing the ring to her, though he said nothing. His eyes were steady, calm, unafraid. The old woman's heart pounded in her chest. She had seen that ring before, long ago, worn by someone who was not human, someone who had shaken the galaxy with their power. That ring was not supposed to exist anymore. It should have been lost, destroyed, buried with its master. Yet here it was, shining on the hand of a traveler from Earth. Her eyes narrowed. That ring is not yours, she said. It cannot be. Still, the human did not answer. His silence was heavier than words. The crowd waited, holding its breath. Children clutched their parents. Merchants pulled their goods closer, as if protection could be found in cloth and metal. The alien woman's staff tapped against the stone. Ground. She pointed at the ring, her voice rising now, old but strong. Do you know what you carry? Do you understand the danger that comes with it? The human finally spoke. His voice was calm, quiet, but it cut through the air like steel. I know. The single reply sent a ripple of fear through the crowd. Some backed away. Others whispered, in urgent tones. The old woman froze, her words caught in her throat. She had expected confusion, maybe denial, maybe lies. Not this. Not calm truth. She studied him, her glowing eyes searching for weakness, for fear, for anything human. But she found none. Only steady calm, like he had been waiting for this moment. The ring shimmered again, catching the twin suns, and the market, once alive with sound and trade, now stood in silence. The human looked at the old alien woman, his gaze unbroken, and she, for the first time in many years, felt a shadow of doubt. The silence in the marketplace was heavy, almost painful. Every eye was fixed on the human and the old alien woman. The ring gleamed softly, mocking the quiet around it. The human did not move. He stood still, like a shadow carved into the ground. The old alien woman tightened her grip on her staff, her voice low but sharp. That ring should not be on your hand. It belonged to one who was feared across the stars. Speak, human. Where did you find it? Her question cut through the air, and the crowd leaned closer, waiting. The human's eyes met hers, calm, steady, without fear. He did not rush to answer. He let the silence stretch, and that silence frightened the listeners more than any shouted words. Finally, he spoke. Does it matter where I found it? The crowd gasped. Some backed away, others leaned in with wide eyes. No one expected such boldness. This was not how humans were remembered. They were thought to be weak, fragile creatures, survivors maybe, but never challengers. The old woman's eyes narrowed. It matters more than you can imagine. That ring once belonged to the conqueror of ashes. Whole fleets burned because of it. Whole worlds surrendered at its sight, and you walk with it as if it is only jewelry? Her words struck the crowd like a storm. Creatures whispered in fear. The name of the conqueror was legend, whispered in stories to scare younglings into obedience. The conqueror was dead, yes, but the memory of their power was alive. The human did not flinch. His voice remained quiet, but his words cut deep. You, speak as if you saw those wars yourself. The old woman stiffened. Her glowing eyes locked on him, and for a moment she looked less like a frail elder and more like a survivor of endless battles. I did, she said. Her voice trembled, not from weakness, but from memory. I saw the conqueror rise. I saw the skies darken with fire. I saw that ring raised as worlds bent their knees. And I saw the blood that followed. Do not pretend you know what you wear. The crowd held their breath. The human tilted his head slightly, his face unreadable. Then you know, he said softly, that power belongs not to the ring, but to the one who wears it. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some stepped back, afraid the human would unleash something terrible at any moment. Others stared in awe as if watching history begin again. The old woman's staff shook in her hand. Her voice hardened, sharp as broken glass. You dare speak such words? Do you wish to bring death upon yourself? Upon this world? That ring is a beacon. If it is truly real, others will come. They will not rest until it is taken from you. The human's reply was calm, almost gentle. Let them come. The marketplace shivered at those words. Aliens looked at one another with wide eyes. Who was this human? Why did he not fear? The old woman studied him carefully. His face carried no pride, no arrogance, only certainty. It was that certainty that unsettled her the most. She stepped closer, pointing at the ring again. You cannot be the chosen of that ring. You are human. Your kind is not meant to carry such weight. Why you? Why now? The human did not answer at once. His silence stretched again, and it felt heavier than words. When he finally spoke, it was like a quiet storm. Because he gave it to me. The crowd erupted in shouts and gasps. Some denied it, some screamed in fear, some simply stood frozen. The old woman's mouth opened, then closed. For once she had no words. She whispered at last, her voice weak. Impossible. The conqueror would never, not to a human. But the human's calm eyes told no lies. His voice carried no boast. He spoke as if telling a simple truth. A truth so sharp it silenced her. He turned his gaze away from her and looked at the crowd. His voice was steady. I do not ask you to believe. I do not need you to. The ring is mine now. That is enough. The silence that followed was complete. Not even the airships above dared to hum too loudly. The old alien woman lowered her staff, her hand trembling. She had lived through wars, through fear, through legends. Yet never had she felt so uncertain. Her question had been answered. But the answer only raised more questions. If the conqueror truly gave the ring to this human, then history was not finished. It was only beginning again. The crowd whispered in fear as the human began to walk once more, each step heavy with meaning. The old woman watched him go, her mind burning with questions she could not ask. And deep in her heart, for the first time in centuries, she felt true dread. The old alien woman did not move. She stood rooted in the marketplace, her staff trembling in her hand as the human's words echoed in her mind. He gave it to me. Impossible. Unthinkable. Yet she could not shake the feeling that he spoke the truth. His eyes had no fear, no hesitation, only certainty. The crowd around them had broken into chaos. Some aliens hurried away, pulling their children by the arms. Others argued in harsh whispers, their voices sharp with panic. A few remained frozen, staring at the human as if he were a storm about to break. The human walked slowly through the market, the ring glinting with every step. He moved as if nothing had happened, as if the weight of history on his hand was nothing but a trinket. But every eye followed him, waiting, fearing, hoping. The old woman gathered her courage and stepped after him. "You cannot just walk away," she said, her voice unsteady. "If what you say is true, then you carry the final secret of the conqueror. Tell me, human, how did he give it to you? How could he trust you?" The human stopped. He did not turn fully, only glanced at her over his shoulder. His cloak shifted slightly, revealing a hint of armor beneath, scratched and scarred. "He trusted me," the human said softly, "because I was the last one who stood against him." The marketplace froze again. Every sound, every whisper died. The old woman's eyes widened. "You fought him?" The human's gaze returned forward, his voice calm, almost tired. "Not just fought, I survived him. And he saw something in me." He raised his hand, letting the light catch the ring again. The metal shimmered, almost alive, as if remembering battles long past. "He gave me this," the human continued, "not as a gift, not as a reward, but as a burden, a promise, a challenge." The old woman stepped closer, her voice sharp now. "Lies. He would never yield. The conqueror bent entire armies, but he never bent himself. Why would he give his power to a human? Of all creatures?" The human's lips curved slightly. Not a smile, not mockery, but something in between. "Because he could not kill me." The word struck like thunder. The crowd gasped again, some stepping back, others whispering in disbelief. The human finally turned to face her fully. His cloak swayed with the motion, and his eyes burned with quiet strength. "You remember his power," he said. "You remember the fear. So you also remember this truth. The conqueror spared no one. He destroyed all who stood in his way. But when he met me, he failed. He could not break me. He could not end me. And in that failure, he saw something greater than himself." The old woman shook her head, her voice trembling. "No, he was unstoppable. He crushed fleets, burned planets. Nothing stood against him. How could a human?" The human raised his hand again, the ring glowing faintly now as if stirred by the memory. "Because I am human," he said. "Because I fight differently. Where others bow, I endure. Where others fear, I refuse." And in that moment, when he saw me standing unbroken, he laughed. He said, "Then you will carry it. You will see what it does to you." The marketplace was silent again, but this silence was different. It was not just fear, it was awe. The old woman lowered her staff, her hands shaking. She could see it now, in his eyes, in his voice. He was not lying. He carried not only the ring, but the memory of facing the conqueror himself. "You carry his curse," she whispered. The human nodded slightly. "Yes. And his lesson." The ring shimmered brighter, bending the twin sun's light into strange patterns on the ground. Some aliens shielded their eyes. Others fell to their knees without knowing why. The old woman's voice cracked. "Then the legends are true. The ring chooses, but it also destroys. Do you not fear what it will do to you? The human's answer was quiet, but unshakable. I fear nothing. Because I am not him. I will not be what he was. This ring will not change me. The old woman stared at him, her heart torn between dread and hope. She had lived long enough to see power twist even the strongest. She wanted to believe his words, but belief was dangerous. Human, she whispered. If you are wrong, then you will bring the galaxy to ruin once more. The human turned, away again, his cloak trailing behind him. Then watch me, he said. With that, he walked deeper into the city, the ring flashing like a star. The crowd parted silently, their eyes wide, their hearts heavy with fear and wonder. And the old woman, for the first time in her endless years, felt both dread and a strange, fragile spark of hope. Because maybe, just maybe, this human would not fall. Maybe this time, history would not repeat. The city did not forget the human's words. Long after he had walked away from the marketplace, the whispers continued to spread. They moved from stall to stall, from street to street, carried like sparks in dry grass. A human wears the ring. The conqueror's burden lives again. History is about to repeat. The old alien woman followed at a distance. Her heart was restless, torn between fear and curiosity. She had seen many symbols in her long life, but none as dangerous as that silver band on the human's hand. She could not let him go without one more word. She found him at the edge of the city, where the towers gave way to empty stone fields and broken statues from forgotten times. The twin suns hung lower in the sky, painting the world in firelight. The human stood on a rise, looking out at the horizon, silent as stone. The woman's staff clicked against the ground as she approached. You walk too boldly, she said. Every eye is on you now. Do you not feel the weight of their fear? The human did not turn. His cloak shifted in the warm wind, but his voice was steady. Fear is not my concern. The woman frowned. It should be. Fear will bring enemies. That ring is not a secret anymore. Word will spread beyond this world. Those who once served the conqueror will come. They will see you as an imposter. And others, those who hated him, will come too. They will not see you as a savior, only as a threat. Her words hung in the air like the beat of distant drums. The human lowered his head slightly, as if listening, then finally spoke. Let them come. The answer made her chest tighten. The same words he had, spoken before, calm, simple, final, but this time she could not let it end there. You do not understand, she pressed, stepping closer. Her glowing eyes shone with memory. I saw what that ring brought. It was more than a weapon. It was a beacon. Wherever it appeared, war followed. Whole fleets hunted it. Entire worlds burned for it. The ring does not choose peace, it calls blood. The human turned to face her at last. His expression was calm, but his eyes carried a weight, a deep fire that did not waver. Then I will meet it, he said. War, fleets, enemies. It does not matter. I am not afraid. The old woman shook her head. You speak like him. Her words struck sharp, and for a brief moment the human's jaw tightened. But he did not deny it. He only lifted his hand, letting the ring catch the last light of the suns. I am not him, he said. This ring will not make me him. I carry it, yes, but I am still human, and that is enough. The woman's staff tapped against the stone, her voice rising. You think being human protects you? You think your spirit cannot be broken? The conqueror was not born with darkness. He became it. Power twisted him. Power will twist you too. The human lowered his hand. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then he spoke, quiet but unshakable. Maybe, or maybe not, but I will not run from it. If I am tested, I will endure. That is what we humans do. The woman stared at him, her ancient heart torn. She wanted to argue, to warn him again, to tear the ring from his hand if she could. But deep inside, she felt the strange pull of his words. She had seen hundreds of warriors in her lifetime. None had spoken like this. "You are reckless," she said at last, her voice softer now. "Reckless, or something more. I cannot tell." The human stepped past her, his cloak brushing against her staff. "Then watch me," he said. Her glowing eyes followed him as he walked into the fading light, his figure framed against the horizon. For the first time in centuries, she felt powerless. She could not stop him. She could only warn. And now her warnings were done. Behind her, the city bells began to ring, a signal low and deep. She turned, her heart sinking. Scouts had already reported ships entering orbit. Too many ships. Too soon. The news was spreading faster than even she feared. She looked back at the human, already far ahead on the road. "Foolish human," she whispered. "You carry fire into a storm." But part of her, small and hidden, hoped he was right. Hoped that perhaps a human could endure what even legends could not. As the sun sank and the sky filled with shadow, the first warships cut across, the heavens above. The warning had come true and the galaxy was watching. The first warships cut through the sky like black blades. Their hulls glowed red from engines that burned too hot, and their shadows fell across the city below. The bells of warning rang again, louder, urgent, shaking the marketplace to its core. The crowd scattered. Merchants closed their stalls in panic. Families rushed into the underground shelters, dragging children behind them. Soldiers in pale armor gathered in squads, their weapons ready but their eyes wide with fear. The old alien woman stood in the chaos, her staff trembling in her hand. She had warned him. She had told him that the ring would call enemies. And now, they had come. Her glowing eyes searched the streets until she found him. The human was still walking calmly, as if the sky itself was not falling. His cloak moved with the hot wind, and the silver ring on his finger shimmered with strange light. She hurried toward him, her voice rising above the screams. "Do you see now? They are here. They will not stop until you are dead. Until the ring is theirs." The human stopped at the edge of the city where the open stone plains stretched toward the landing fields. He looked up at the warships descending, his face calm, his stance unshaken. "I told you," he said softly. "Let them come." The woman's voice cracked. "You cannot fight them all. Even the conqueror needed armies, fleets. You are only one man." The human finally turned his gaze to her. His eyes burned with a quiet fire that made her heart falter. "One man can be enough." The words silenced her. For a moment, she could not speak. His certainty felt heavier than any army. The ground shook as the first warship landed beyond the stone plains. Its engines roared, burning the air, sending clouds of dust and fire into the sky. A ramp fell open, and dark figures marched out in perfect lines, armored soldiers of a forgotten order. Their faces were hidden behind masks of steel, their weapons humming with power. The city gasped as one. The enemy had come, and they looked unstoppable. The old woman clutched her staff tighter. "They will crush you. They will take the ring, and this world will burn. Do you not fear even now?" The human raised his hand, letting the ring catch the light of the warship's fire. The silver band shimmered brighter than before, bending the glow into strange patterns across the ground. The soldiers paused, their march slowing, their masks turning toward him. "I fear nothing," the human said, "because fear is their weapon, and I will not carry it." The words fell heavy, and the city grew quiet again. The bells stopped ringing. The screams faded. Even the airships above seemed to hover in silence. The old woman stared at him, her lips trembling. "What are you, human?" The man lowered his hand slowly, his eyes fixed on the enemy soldiers who had frozen in place. His voice was calm, almost gentle, but it carried across the plains. "I am what he could never be." The enemy soldiers shifted, uneasy, as if his words pressed on them like weight. The warship engines growled louder, but the silence in the city was deeper still. The old woman felt her heart twist. She had lived through centuries of blood and conquest. She had seen leaders rise and fall. She had seen the conqueror himself wield that ring with iron will. Yet never had she seen anyone, human or otherwise, stand against an army with such calm. And in that silence something happened she had not expected. The soldiers stopped marching. The crowd stopped breathing. The sky seemed to hold still. The human took one step forward, and that single step shook the hearts of all who watched more than the roar of any fleet. The old woman lowered her staff. For the first time in her endless years, she did not know what to say. She, who always had answers, was left without words. The human turned his head slightly toward her, his face calm, his eyes burning. And she was silent. The marketplace, the city, the entire world seemed to bow under that silence. The warships hovered above, ready to strike. The soldiers stood frozen at the edge of the plains. And the human, with nothing but a ring and his will, faced them all. The old woman's heart whispered one thought, quiet but certain. This is no ordinary man. This is the moment history changes. The silence deepened, stretching, heavy with fear, hope, and something unknown. And then, without warning, the sky itself cracked with light. A beam, white and fierce, split the clouds above the city. It was not fire from the warships. It was something older, stranger, as if the heavens themselves had torn apart. The beam stretched across the sky, then vanished as quickly as it came, leaving behind silence even heavier than before. The enemy soldiers shifted uneasily. Their masks turned upward, scanning the sky. The crowd whispered in fear. And through it all, the human stood unmoving, the ring on his hand glowing faintly as if it had answered the light. The old alien woman's staff shook in her grip. She felt the power in the air, a power she had not felt in centuries. It reminded her of the conqueror's rise, but this was different, sharper, more focused. The lead warship's engines roared, cutting through the silence. A deep voice echoed from its loudspeakers, heavy with authority. Human, you wear what is not yours. Surrender the ring or your death will be swift. The soldiers advanced again, their boots striking the stone in perfect rhythm. Energy weapons hummed, glowing with deadly light. The city trembled as they marched forward, unstoppable. The old woman turned to the human, desperation in her voice. Do something, you cannot let them take it. But you cannot face them alone. The human's eyes never left the advancing soldiers. His hand tightened into a fist. I will not surrender, he said calmly. The soldiers raised their weapons. A wave of heat shimmered in the air as the barrels charged, preparing to unleash fire strong enough to melt steel. The crowd screamed and ducked behind walls. The old woman clutched her staff to her chest, her glowing eyes wide with dread. The first volley fired. Blinding streaks of plasma cut through the air, heading straight for the human, but just before they struck, the ring flared. A ripple of silver light expanded from his hand, a shield of energy so bright it made the suns themselves seem dim. The plasma blasts struck the shield and vanished like sparks on water. Not a single one touched him. The crowd gasped. The old woman staggered back in shock. The soldiers fired again, but the result was the same. The shield rippled, drank in the energy, and dissolved it into nothing. The human stood unharmed, his cloak billowing in the waves of heat. He lowered his hand slowly, and the shield vanished. Silence followed, broken only by the hiss of cooling stone where the blasts had struck. The soldiers froze. Even the warship engines seemed to hesitate, their growl fading for a moment. The human's voice was calm, steady. Now it begins. He stepped forward. The crowd could not believe it. One man walking calmly toward an army that had burned entire cities, as if he carried no fear at all. The soldiers raised their weapons again, but something strange happened. Their hands shook. Their perfect rhythm faltered. For the first time, the army of the conqueror's heirs looked uncertain. The old woman's voice cracked. What are you doing? The human did not turn. I told you, fear is their weapon. I will not carry it. With every step he took, the silence deepened. The soldiers' weapons wavered. Some lowered their rifles, though no order had been given. The commander's voice boomed from the warship again, harsher now. Fire. Destroy him. The soldiers obeyed, unleashing another storm of plasma. The human raised his hand once more. This time the ring did not only shield. The silver light burst, outward in a wave sweeping across the plains like a storm. The blasts were swallowed whole, and the wave struck the soldiers like a hammer. They staggered, shields breaking, weapons sparking. Some fell to their knees, their armor cracking with a sound like thunder. The crowd gasped again, louder, filled, with awe instead of terror. Children peeked from behind their parents, their fear replaced by wonder. The old woman clutched her staff, her lips trembling. He was not fighting like the conqueror. The conqueror had crushed, destroyed, consumed. But this human, he pushed back without killing, without rage. His strength was not conquest. It was resistance. The warship engines roared again, louder, angrier. More ramps opened, more soldiers marching out in endless lines. The old woman's heart sank. Even if he was strong, could one man face them all? The human stood tall, his eyes fixed on the countless soldiers before him. The ring glowed brighter than ever, silver light swirling like fire around his hand. He whispered, almost too soft to hear. Then let the galaxy watch. The soldiers froze at his words, as if the silence itself pressed them down. Even the old woman felt it, heavy on her chest. And in that silence, the first warship opened fire, from above. A beam of red energy tore through the sky, aimed straight at the lone human standing in the plains. The warship's beam cut through the sky like a blade of fire. Red energy screamed downward, bright enough to blind, hot enough to burn the air itself. Buildings trembled, glass shattered, and the ground cracked open under the weight of its power. Like geese, people cried out in terror. Some fell to the ground, others covered their faces. The old alien woman gripped her staff, certain this was the end. No shield could stop a strike from a warship's main cannon. Not even the conqueror had ever stood against it alone. Yet the human did not move. He raised his hand, and the ring flared brighter than ever before. A wall of silver light burst upward, meeting the beam head-on. For a moment, the sky became a battlefield of colors, red fire against silver light, tearing at each other in a storm that shook the world. The beam should have crushed him. It should have melted stone, burned flesh, shattered bone. But the light of the ring held. The ground cracked deeper, the air rippled, and dust swirled in choking clouds, but the human remained standing, unbroken. The old woman's glowing eyes widened. Impossible, she whispered. The struggle lasted only seconds, but to those watching it felt eternal. Then, with a sound like shattering glass, the red beam fractured. Pieces of burning light scattered across the sky and vanished. The warship's cannon fell silent. The human lowered his hand, the silver glow dimmed, but the mark of its power lingered in the air like heat after a fire. His cloak hung heavy with dust, his hair whipped by the storm, but his eyes were calm, steady, unafraid. The crowd erupted in gasps. Some shouted in awe, others in disbelief. Children clung to their parents, whispering that the human had stopped the sky itself. Soldiers who had marched so confidently only moments before now stood frozen, their weapons trembling in their hands. The old woman's staff shook as she stepped forward. Her voice carried across the silence. You stopped it. No one has ever. The human turned to her, his voice quiet but firm. Now you see why he gave it to me. Her words failed her. She had seen powers, seen legends, seen destruction. But she had never seen resistance like this. It was not the fury of the conqueror. It was not the cruelty of warlords. It was something else, something harder to define. The commander's voice boomed from the warship again, but there was a crack in his tone now, a trace of doubt. This changes nothing. He is only one man. Fire again. The soldiers obeyed, but their hands shook, their lines faltered. They fired in bursts, but the blasts curved away, dissolving before they reached him. The ring did not even flare this time. It simply bent the attacks aside as if the air itself protected him. The human raised his voice, speaking not to the soldiers, not to the commander, but to the galaxy itself. "Do you hear me? You fight for ghosts. You fight for fear. But I am not fear. I am not him. I am human. And I will not fall." The words struck deeper than any blast. The silence that followed was heavier than the warship's fire. The soldiers lowered their weapons, uncertain. Some even stepped back. The old woman felt her heart pound. His voice had not only stopped their hands, it had reached something deeper. The commander roared again, desperate now. "He is nothing. End him!" But even as the warship prepared another strike, hesitation spread among the soldiers. Some dropped to one knee. Others froze, their weapons falling silent. The rhythm of fear was broken. The human looked at them, his gaze steady. "You already know the truth. You cannot serve him anymore. The conqueror is gone. The ring is not his. It is mine. And I am not your master." The old woman's lips parted. She could not believe what she was seeing. The soldiers, trained, bred, broken into obedience, were listening. A long silence followed. The city held its breath. Then slowly, one soldier removed his mask. Beneath it was a scarred face, eyes wide with disbelief. He dropped his weapon to the ground. The others followed. Masks clattered, weapons fell. The perfect lines broke apart. The army that had marched with certainty now crumbled into confusion. The warship's engines roared in rage, but the soldiers no longer moved to its command. The silence below was louder than the machine above. The old woman whispered, her voice trembling. "You did not destroy them, you freed them." The human lowered his hand, the ring dimming at last. His voice was soft, but it carried across the plains. "That is the answer." The old woman clutched her staff, her eyes wet with something she had not felt in centuries. Hope. Above them, the warship circled, furious and alone. The commander's voice barked with rage, but no one listened. The silence of the broken army drowned him out, and in that silence, history turned.